Hi guys, welcome to the channel of Love Study Group. We are studying How to Raise Your Own Salary by Napoleon Hill. We are on chapter 14 and the chapter is called Cooperate. Okay, Hill. Inasmuch as you have stated that teamwork is the 14th principle of the philosophy of American achievement, will you name its major benefits as it may be applied in the practical business world? Carnegie. To begin with, let us recognise that industrial America, as we know it today, could not carry on its vast operation without the principle of teamwork. Every industry you can name is manned by a group of men who coordinate their efforts in a spirit of friendliness, all working together for a common benefit. Small individual businesses may be operated by one man, but any business that takes on the proportion of an industry must embrace and use the principle of teamwork. You see, therefore, that industry and teamwork are synonymous terms, and you recognise, of course, that a successful industry calls for efficient, harmonious cooperation among those who operate it. Hill. Wouldn't that same statement apply as well to the management of a household? Carnegie. Yes, but we shall come back to that later on. Right now, let us confine our analysis to the larger operations of business and industry. Take the subject of transportation, for example, and you will readily recognise that it calls for teamwork on a huge scale. In railroading, the teamwork principle is so well organised that all major operations are carried out on written orders. Verbal instructions will not do, because the hazards of the railroad business are such that it must be possible to fix responsibilities on all individuals engaged in the operation. The operation of a modern railroad train is one of the finest examples of teamwork. Every train moves on written orders. The orders originate in the office of skilled executives who plan the moves of trains. They are conveyed to trainmen by a dispatcher who in turn is responsible to the operating executives for their correct delivery and interpretation. The train is in charge of a conductor who moves his train on written orders, except under certain circumstances where he may move a limited distance without such orders. All members of the train crew are directly responsible to the conductor and carry out his instructions without question. Every man working for a railroad, from the humblest track walker to the president of the road, is related to the other workers in a spirit of teamwork that cannot be violated without possible injury to someone. Hill. Would you say, Mr. Carnegie, that the modern railroad executive makes perfect application of the principle of teamwork? Carnegie. As far as the relationship of the workers of the road is concerned, there is almost perfect coordination of effort, allowing for the unavoidable human weakness, and even these are largely safeguarded by mechanical equipment and signal devices which work automatically. But the principle of teamwork should not stop with the mere coordination of effort between the railroad workers themselves, for there is the public service. For there is the public served by the railroad, which must be considered, because the public pays the salaries of the men who operate the roads. Therefore, the public is the real employer of all railroad men. Hill. But isn't it true, Mr. Carnegie, that the public is forced to patronise railroads, whether people like the employers of railroads or not? Carnegie. Come on in, darling. Okay. That is the general attitude of many people, including some railroad employees, but it is an erroneous viewpoint, as if it is adopted generally by railroad employees, the time will come, and not very far in the future at that, when the railroads will find their business being taken away from them by other forms of transportation, such as automobiles and airplanes. Hill. Automobiles and airplanes are not as efficient as railroads, and they cannot carry the heavier types of freight. How, therefore, can they ever compete successfully with the railroads? Carnegie: just remember this: the human element is the controlling factor in all business, including transportation. When enough people cease to wish to patronise the railroads because of the mental attitude of railroad employees, you may be sure that other competitive systems will come into existence to take over the business of the railroads. Airplanes will be refined and made to carry bigger loads. Automobiles will be designed to carry freight and passengers. But more important than these, modern salesmanship will be applied so as to win the public over to these newer methods of transportation. Hill: but Mr. Carnegie, the railroad executives can use salesmanship also, can they not? Carnegie: they can, but will they? That's the question. The railroads have had a monopoly on the carrying of freight and passengers for so long that they may be slow to grasp the changing times quickly enough to adjust themselves to the more advanced methods. This is a common error of many people: failure to recognise facts in time to profit by them. Monopolies often lead to indifference and deterioration in human relationships. The fact that all nature discourages monopolies should be a warning to men to avoid them. Under the American system of free enterprise, we have a form of friendly competition through which we keep the system active, alert, and highly efficient, which amounts to cooperation considering the system as a whole. Hill: do you mean that, although the American system of free enterprise is competitive, the various factors of the system are coordinated in a way that gives it power? Carnegie: yes, that is what I mean. Take the relationship between the system of free enterprise and the American form of government, for example, and observe that both the government and American industry benefit by the coordination of effort between the two. The government protects industry, and industry in return helps to support the cost of government through the taxes and wages which it pays to the workers. As long as this system of coordination is carried on in a friendly manner, the American form of government will survive and American industry will prosper, because the combined results of this sort of cooperation represent the American standard of living, which is the most prosperous the world has yet known. Hill: then the government and industry are practically partners in the economic structure of the United States? Carnegie: yes, and as such they are subject to all the rules and regulations necessary to make any partnership a success, but must give in order to receive. Both must give in order to receive. Both must work in a spirit of friendliness. Both must recognise the rights and the privileges of the general public, and both must become efficient in serving the public. Here, as in all other human relationships, failure to serve will result in the breaking down of the system. The government must prevent monopolies in industry, but in doing so, it must not become a competitor of industry, and it must not burden industry with unreasonable taxes, nor interfere with industry through unsound, arbitrary rules of regulation which discourage the exercise of personal initiative and use of accumulated capital. On the contrary, it is the proper function of the government to encourage personal initiative through the fullest exercise of individual cooperation between those who carry on industry and the public they serve. Hill: what would happen if the government became a competitor of industry or burdened industry with regulations and taxes which made it unprofitable for industry to operate? Carnegie: precisely the same thing that would happen if individuals engaged in industry neglected to cooperate on a friendly basis for a common purpose. This happens sometimes, but it always leads to failure. Hill: you mean that friendly coordination of effort is a requirement for success in all human endeavour? Carnegie. Personal power is acquired through friendly coordination of efforts and in no other way. In this country, we have an economic system based upon this sort of cooperation. That is why ours is the richest and most powerful nation of the world. We have found a practical way of coordinating the efforts of groups of individuals in all walks of life, and this coordination has given us great power. If you are a close observer, you will have noticed that the individuals who have attained the highest degree of cooperation in their relationships with others are those who have achieved the greatest success in their chosen callings. Hill, you believe then that government regulation of industry is for the common good for all? Why? Carnegie, because regulation within the bounds of reason discourages the greedy and the selfish individuals from seeking monopolies and protects the public against unfair practices in business. Just as there must be unbiased umpires in athletics who see that the rules of the game are observed for the benefit of all the players, there must also be an unbiased government umpire who will see that the sound rules of industry are carried out for the benefit of all. Every well-managed business has executives who see to it that all individuals work together in a spirit of teamwork. These executives serve as the umpires who coordinate all factors essential for the successful operation of the business. Their sense of fairness and their wisdom determine the degree of success the business enjoys. Hill, and you believe that a business cannot be successful without the aid of unbiased coordinators known as management? Carnegie, that is the idea. Small one-man businesses may operate successfully without a coordinator, but the moment any business requires more than one man for its operation, some individual must assume the responsibility of coordinating the factors which affect the business, or it will not succeed. Business is a science requiring accuracy of judgment, experience, and a sense of fairness. All these factors must be coordinated and applied in accordance with carefully laid plans. Human nature is such that not all men are suited to serve as coordinators. Some men, in fact most men, will not accept the responsibility of efficiently directing themselves, let alone the responsibility of guiding others. Let's just reread that part. Some men, in fact most men, will not accept the responsibility of efficiently directing themselves, let alone the responsibility of guiding others. Yet without practical guidance of the workers, no business can succeed. Hill, you mean then that the service of a coordinator in business are beneficial to all workers, especially those who will not assume the responsibility of self-direction? Carnegie, yes, and I may add that an able coordinator not only serves the interest of a business as a whole, but he aids the individuals who work in the business to so direct their efforts that they can earn more than they would be worth if they lacked this guidance. Men require discipline, guidance and supervision in order to make their efforts of the greatest value to themselves and to others. If you doubt this, observe what happens when the management of any business becomes inefficient, selfish, or dishonest. Hill, summed up in a few words, what you are saying is that the coordination of individual efforts is essential for success in any business, and the majority of men lack the ability or the inclination to cooperate with others in an efficient, friendly manner. Carnegie, that is precisely what I have been saying, and it is supported by the experience of all able business leaders. The best evidence of its soundness may be found in the well-known fact that while ordinary manual labour is always plentiful, managerial ability always is scarce. This is because men with the temperament, education, experience and personal inclination to coordinate the efforts of others are scarce. This scarcity accounts for the fact that able managerial ability always commands its own price, because here, as elsewhere in the field of economics, the law of supply and demand obtains. Hill, in your view of your analysis, may I ask your opinion as to which type of man is the more essential to a well-organised business? The managerial types or the worker who carries out his instructions? Carnegie, both types are essential, but I may add my personal opinion that, as a whole, the managerial type is worth more to the worker than the worker is to the manager, since sound management enables a worker to earn more than he could earn if he worked independently. The ideal setup, of course, exists where the coordinator and the worker recognise the necessity of each other and work together in a spirit of friendliness, so they do as they do in all successful business. Then there is no sound reason, Hill. Then there is no sound reason for discord between management and the workers? Carnegie, no. And I may add that where such discord prevails, both the management and the workers suffer, no matter what may be the cause of the discord. Any circumstance which injures either the management or the workers damages proportionately the whole business with which they are connected. Friction between management and workers in industry can result only from unwillingness on the part of a few or of many to cooperate in a spirit of helpfulness. Such friction usually is the outcome of meddling by professional agitators who profit by causing friction among workers. Hill, inasmuch as the American system of free enterprise is inseparably a part of the American way of life and one of the major foundation stones of Americanism, is it not true that the injury or destruction of our system of free enterprise would be the equivalent of an unfriendly thrust at our entire form of government? Carnegie, that is true. The power that maintains the American way of life, or what we call Americanism, is a coordination of many factors, the major one of importance being our industrial system, and this for the reason that our industrial system is our major source of exchange for commodities and personal services. The greater portion of all money that changes hands in the United States passes through the industrial system in payment for commodities or wages. Therefore, the industrial system pays a major portion of the taxes needed for the operation of the government. Without this source of income, the government would soon become bankrupt, and it produces nothing and earns no direct income. Hill, if the American form of government is ever destroyed or substantially changed so as to limit the personal liberty of the people, from what source do you believe the change will come? Carnegie, if any such change ever takes place, it will undoubtedly come as the result of interference with our industrial system. Our system of industry is, at one and the same time, our great asset and our most vulnerable point. It is the very hub of the American way of life, around which all the lesser factors revolve. It will continue to prosper as long as the government functions in the capacity for which it was created, namely, as a friendly coordinator of all the factors of the American way of life. The government gets its power from the voluntary cooperation of the states, and the states get their power from the voluntary cooperation of the people who live within their borders, and the people get their power from friendly cooperation with one another, as expressed in terms of free enterprise. You see, therefore, that in final analysis, the power of the United States comes from friendly cooperation among the people. If the government is ever radically changed or destroyed, it will be the result of discord among the people, beginning at first perhaps in disagreement between small groups and blocks who are motivated by selfish reasons for individual aggrandizement. As long as the people work together in a friendly spirit, there can be no change in our form of government unless the people desire it. And even then the change will come from within, and it will not be forced upon the people from the outside. You should remember that the power with which the people of America have become prosperous may serve also as a means of self-defence with which they may defend their rights and privileges, including their system of free enterprise. And that's the end to chapter 14. Okay, next chapter, budget your time and money. Okay, guys, I will see you when I see you for that chapter. Take care. Have a great day. Bye for now.